Welcome to Ignite 2020. This is the Outlook calendar session where we get to talk about all the exciting things that have happened in fundamentals and collaboration this past year. First, let's talk about some quick terminology. Whenever I'm talking about Outlook for Mac, I'm talking about the new Outlook for Mac. It's available to insiders today. If you download this in the upper right, you can just opt in to go to the new Outlook for Mac, and it has a lot of new calendar features. The second thing is, in every slide, there's a legend in the upper right saying where this feature is available across the clients and what its status is. And hopefully this helps you know what's new, what's in progress, and what's not yet planned. So one of the key things in calendar that we heard last year was that we want better cross-Outlook consistency. As we're switching between devices, we want the same calendar functionality no matter where we go. And so I'm going to go through some features that we've released this past year so that you have an even more consistent calendar experience across devices. So the first thing is, calendar doesn't matter unless it has all of your time commitments. You need to know exactly when and where you'll be, regardless of whether it's work or personal life. And so now from Outlook for Web, it's across the suite, you can add your personal accounts to view your personal calendars. So you can see you can add your Gmail account, your Outlook.com account in Web, and that's always been available in the other Outlooks as well. What's really exciting is in Web, we're also offering the option to include your personal calendars, events, and your work availability. Now, we'll never share the details of those personal events, but if you turn that on, when someone else is scheduling with you, regardless of what Outlook client they may be scheduling from, they'll see your personal events blocked off as busy so that they don't schedule over that dentist appointment you might have in the middle of the day or doctor's appointment or whatever. And we'll be releasing that setting across the other Outlook clients, hopefully over the next year. You can also connect your shared and delegated mailboxes from Outlook for Mobile. That's fully released now so that across any of the Outlook clients, you can add shared and delegated mailboxes to view those calendars as well. Finally, importing an ICS attachment was one of the other things that people said, I need to get those content more easily into my calendar. That's been released in Android and Web, and we're currently coding it in iOS. And now you've got all the stuff in your calendar and you want to see what's coming up, even when you're in your inbox replying to emails. The to-do pane is now available in Web and Outlook for Mac, and from there you can create an event, you can view your events, view your tasks, and kind of see what's coming up over today and the next few days very easily from the to-do pane. All right, so now you've got all your time commitments in there and you want to schedule a meeting. We've been working a lot on helping you find a time without you having to analyze the whole scheduling assistant and find that one little block that looks right. So now from Outlook for Mobile, when you add some people, we're going to go ahead and suggest a time that we think would work for everyone. And we'll make it a lot easier if that's not the exact time you want. You can say, I'm looking for something this week or next week for this duration or as soon as possible. Give us a little bit about your intent and we'll help you find a time without you having to kind of scroll through and drag around and try to find that time so very manually. It's also available in Outlook for Web, which is rolling out soon, that ability to choose this week and your duration, and we'll provide you a time. And in Outlook for Mac, we've started simple with just some suggested times, and we'll be enhancing that with the natural language this week, next week, as well over the next few months. Finding a conference room has always been, was kind of a key part of last year's Ignite session, and we've continued to work on making that even easier across the clients. In Outlook for Windows and Outlook for Mac, you now have the advanced room finder that's rolling out there, so you can search by capacity or floor in those clients as well. Outlook for Windows is at insiders and will be coming early next year to current channel users. When you're searching for a conference room for a series, we now actually give you availability in Windows and Mac for the series as well. So we'll tell you how many of the instances is available for up through the next 180 days, taking into account room policies as well. When you're viewing rooms, if you've set the metadata on the room, your users will see that metadata, so they'll know what city it's located in, they'll know if it has an audio device or a video device, if it's accessible, and don't forget you can always configure the capabilities via the set place commandlet or via the Places REST API. We're currently integrating room policies even more deeply into the conference room suggestions. So these are the 4 policies that we're integrating first. And this policy enforcement happens in the server API. So there's no additional client updates needed. So as we start releasing this, you'll start seeing the policies enforced automatically in the suggestions that you get in any of the Outlook clients. And while we're on the topic of finding a place and finding a time, I wanted to talk about a feature about reminding you that you can also, as an IT admin, automatically place meetings on calendars without triggering a meeting invite that the attendee must accept and view and manage themselves. So an example might be you have a class meeting on a student calendar, or you have a company-wide all hands that you want to do. As an IT admin, what you do is you designate a special mailbox for your tenant and say all invites from this mailbox should be automatically accepted, and those invites that are sent should never reach my users' inboxes. I just want them auto-accepted and automatically moved to deleted items. So this is something that's recommended if you're trying to get classes set up, or all hands, or company-wide, no meeting days, or that kind of stuff. You can kind of help manage that a little bit more automatically for your users. All right, so now you've got a conference room. We've got a new type of place that you can book this year called a workspace. So if you've got certain places in your physical buildings that you want your users to schedule to say, I'm going to be working this day, so you can manage the number of people in a building, you can create workspaces, and users can find them just like they do find conference rooms, currently with a 3-hour minimum, which will make configurable soon. And for IT admins, you can create policies, you can enforce capacity just like you can with conference rooms. So I've provided a set of steps here that you can use to create your workspaces to make them available to your users. Obviously, you can screen grab this later and follow those steps, so I'll keep going. When you've got your workspaces set up, they'll show up in type down suggestions just like conference rooms, but you can also filter them by Advanced Room Finder to say, I'm specifically looking for a workspace. You can choose type there and you'll automatically see those. So the first thing is we are showing you a join Teams button to make it so easy, one-click join, no matter where you're in your inbox or your calendar or search, you're always going to have a join button, so you don't ever have to go searching for that join button across the Outlooks. And you can also choose to have all your meetings have online Teams or Skype by default. This will just use your default meeting provider. We don't yet integrate with third-party providers, but that is something that we are currently looking into. What happens is as soon as you add an attendee onto an event, we'll immediately toggle on Teams or Skype or insert it in for you. And this makes it a lot easier, so you don't have to manually do that every single time if anyone is not going to be working in the office. The other thing is, especially with back-to-back meetings and fatigue and feeling like I may be sitting in this chair all day taking meetings and never having a break, you can choose to have your meetings end early or start late. So for 25-minute meetings that might start at 10:05 or 10 o'clock and end a little bit earlier to give everyone a little bit of a mental break between meetings. And the upper right shows how it's rolling out there. All the Outlook clients are coding against this together, and it is a roaming setting. So if you turn this on in Outlook for web and then you are scheduling from your mobile phone, that same setting will apply. All right, so you've joined the meeting, you're there, it started on time, and you want to make sure you have the content to present. So Meeting Insights is now released in Mac, iOS, and Android, which is new, and we're also coding it in Teams as well, because we know sometimes you're joined in the meeting in Teams, and so you want to have that files or your emails right there for you in Teams. So we've provided Meeting Insights across this Outlook and Teams apps. All right, so shared calendars and delegates, always a topic we wanted to provide you an update about Outlook for Windows. So quick refresher, you have the old model of calendar sharing where when the delegate's reading against their current calendar, they're reading from a local copy, and then when they're managing their executive's calendar, they're doing that remotely. And so they're reading remotely and writing remotely. Those old model calendars don't show up in mobile phones as well. So that's kind of the experience that delegates get with old model. With new model, when the calendar's added, it creates a local copy in the delegate's mailbox. So when they're acting in the Outlook clients, they're always reading and writing from the local copy in their mailbox. They don't have a remote connection that could time out, that could fail, that might be flaky. It's all kind of locally managed from their calendar or their mailbox. And the other great thing is that it shows up in all of their apps, including mobile phones. As a result, the delegates get a lot better performance. The changes, when the manager's calendar changes, it's being pushed down to them rather than the clients periodically making a remote call to see what's happened. Better reliability because the clients are going through service commands. There's no more client-side logic to manage permissions or workflows and kind of resolve conflicts on send. And also they get a lot of new functionality. So because they're going through server commands, if they try to end a series without early, they're not going to reset the whole pass. So they'll get that pass reset. Or if you choose do not send a response, it's still going to update the organizer even if no email is sent, which is stuff that's been released in the other clients but hasn't yet come to delegates in Outlook for Windows. So the rollout last year, we announced that it was coming soon to current channel as an opt-in preview. It's still an opt-in preview there, which I'll talk about next, but it is coming to semi-annual channel as an opt-in preview in January 2021. So to enable the preview, the manager and the delegate just have to both be on Office 365, and then you only need to enable it for the delegate. The owner's calendar doesn't need to be turned on. So from the advanced settings, you're going to go turn on the preview, reboot Outlook, and then you're going to see a parentheses preview label next to the executive's calendars. If you don't see that, go check out that aka.ms/calendar preview link for a little more instructions, because if you don't see preview, it means your client is ready to consume new model, but that shared calendar itself hasn't yet been upgraded to new model. So we call it a preview because it's not ready for usage. It's just there's a couple features that we haven't yet implemented that we need to add before we can enable by default. Because when we give you something great, we also don't want to take away something you might be depending on. So there's these 3 features here that we're currently working on, and as soon as we finish rolling those out, we're going to move to an opt-in by default model to try to make shared calendars even better for users who don't know to go opt-in. And I'd also like to mention that the preview label you'll only see in Outlook for Windows because the other clients, they'll be using new model, but because they're no longer in preview mode, you won't see that preview label there if you're viewing the shared calendar from web or mobile. As a reminder, this can be enabled by a GPO. If you want to turn it on for all of your delegates without them having to manually opt in, you just turn this policy on and the checkmark box will be checked for them and disabled. If you really want to prevent your users from doing this, you can always disable the policy as well. But this is something we've seen customers have a lot of success with to get their delegates quickly on with the knowledge that those 3 features are not yet supported. And so one question every IT admin that I speak with asks is saying, my delegate, they've had a bad experience or they're very cautious, and is this really ready for them? We've got thousands of delegates who are already opted in and using it, and we've had a lot of really good success with them. Almost all of the bumps that we've heard from customers occur when they're trying to opt in and trying to get upgraded and all set up, because we haven't made that super simple yet. If they don't see the preview, they have to manually fix that. That's been the bulk of the feedback. But then once users have been upgraded, there's been almost nothing but 2 issues that they've hit. One is we had not yet supported the integration of full mailbox permissions, which we've now done. And then there was a few issues with mailbox quota from the manager's side where it was failing without obvious to the delegate. And those have both been fixed. And I'd like to remind you that we are just an email away. So if you have your delegate on the preview and you have a question about how something works or want to report a bug or anything like that, just shoot an email to this email address I've shown here, olk-calendar-preview@microsoft.com. And it goes to our entire engineering team, and we'll review, get back to you, and make sure that you and your delegate are all happy on the preview. So one other thing, there's a lot going on for shared calendar delegates in Windows, but there's also, as we've integrated full mailbox, it means that delegates and other clients will now start having a better experience. If they open or add a calendar to which they have full mailbox access, we were previously defaulting to org permissions, and now we're showing full permissions, including private items. And we've already started to upgrade delegates in web. We've upgraded about 16,000 delegates so far. We're looking for, based on our optics, we kind of target delegates who have old model calendars and use web as their primary client. And we've seen a lot of good success there as we started to upgrade users. All right, the final section here is just talking about all the things that are the paper cuts that bother you that we've been working on and fixing for you this year. So this is just kind of a quick best of 2020 rundown here. So week numbers, big ask that came up last Ignite from y'all that we've now got across web, iOS, and Android. So it's across all the Outlook clients. We're not yet roaming that setting, but that's something that we've got on our plans. But at least you can get those week numbers anytime you're viewing your calendar. In Outlook for iOS, if you're trying to schedule in a different time zone, you don't have to do that conversion yourself now. We offer you the time zone option, which was a big piece of feedback that users wanted. Another thing they wanted in Android is that integration with the local device calendars, so that when they're receiving or managing meeting invites or other kind of calendar flows, they have the option to use Outlook or sync back from Outlook. So now you can connect your device calendars in Android. And for IT admins, if you want to block syncing back to the device, you can do that easily with an Intune policy. So with web, we've released the flexible day view. So if you want to be in day view, you don't want the full week and you maybe want 2 days or 3 days, you can go configure that in web and have a little bit more customized view for yourself. And if you're traveling across time zones in web, we'll prompt you and say, hey, do you want to update your calendar as well? Something we've done in the other Outlooks but hadn't yet done in web. So now that's rolling out in web for you as well. Big ask in Outlook's user voice is the request for multiple mini months. As you drag that to-do bar, to-do pane a little bit wider, you would like to see more months. We now support that in Outlook for Windows, which is going to be rolling out very soon to current channel users. And with Mac, there's so many features. I can't even show one screenshot for all the stuff that's happening in Mac with the preview. Some callouts here is you can add personal accounts, you can connect and view your group calendars, working elsewhere supported, better type down suggestions, meeting insights, a whole bunch of great stuff. So highly recommend you go check out that Mac preview and all the new calendar goodness that's coming there. And finally, top complaint has been when someone leaves the organization and a mailbox is disabled, it's not automatically removed from meeting invites. And so what we're going to do now is we'll still update the organizer with one email back to say, hey, you just updated this meeting, but this user no longer exists. And we're going to automatically remove them for them after we send that first email. So you don't get multiple of these annoying emails anytime that you want to update a meeting with a mailbox that no longer exists. Especially useful for those big meetings where your delegates are constantly getting auto responses. All right, there's a few updates with Teams meetings and join buttons that we're working on. So the first one is that when an organizer goes in and removes that Teams part of the meeting description, we were previously not removing that join button in the upper right, which is based on back-end server properties of the meeting. So now we're removing those server properties anytime we see the description be deleted from the meeting so that it just becomes a fully offline meeting. Similarly, if you copy and paste in Teams meetings, we weren't stamping the server properties and adding them, which we will now be doing, so that a native join button will appear. It also makes it a lot easier to join from a conference room or from those one-click options that I showed in a previous slide. Finally, sometimes we see people add Teams, which adds the server properties and the blob in the description, and then they remove that blob and replace it with a totally different blob. What that means is that there's two different Teams meetings associated with the meeting, and depending on how you join one meeting or the other, which creates a lot of hassle and confusion. So the first thing that we're going to do is just make sure that no native join button appears. We're going to remove those back-end properties when we see the blob being replaced, and this has to do with chat permissions and file permissions. Those properties also control who can view the chat related to this meeting, and so we have a little more investigations to make sure we don't accidentally leak your content when you're copying and pasting blobs across meetings. All right, so that's all we have to talk about with Calendar. There's a lot of more awesome sessions for Exchange and Outlook and bookings. So go check these out, and I hope you have a wonderful Ignite.